Okay, the fluids have been checked. We're in the car. Have the keys in the ignition. It's time to fire this podcast up. And after 3 months, we're back in action here at the WaltPar Podcast, uniting all generations and types of Mopar fans, lovers, and enthusiasts everywhere. From Walter P. Chrysler to today's Mopar and beyond. This is episode number 15 of the WaltPar Podcast. Well, everybody, welcome back, and hello, my name is Scott Gresser. It's great to be back. I'm your host of the WaltPar Podcast, Mopar since 1960, and I'm ever so grateful, as always, that you can join me here today. I'm recording this on December 30th, 2024, in the middle of a holiday season, so this will be a very short podcast. Believe me on that, it will. I've timed this several times. Email me, WaltParPodcast@AOL.com. You can find me on most social media. Search WaltPar Podcast. That's WaltPar Podcast. And on YouTube and Rumble, search WaltPar. Since I'm recording this episode on December 30th, I'm going to keep this podcast brief. It's been 3 months since I did my last one. In the meantime, I put my 76 Cordova away for the winter. I did that in early October. I was planning on going to clear over to Oak Harbor, Ohio, in Northwest Ohio for a final show, but it was going to rain that day. So after I did a morning show that Saturday in Worcester, I said, that's it. I'm done. Parked for the winter, put her away, added the stay bill, good to go. And I'm going to wait till springtime to fire it up again. And also, I put that away. It's the same car, by the way, that you hear every episode when I fire up the podcast. That Cordova is what I fire up. You can see it on the cover art. It's that red Cordova with the white top. That's the car, and that's the one you hear fired up at the beginning of each podcast. So that's away for the winter. I've been working on putting back together my Demon 340, my 1971 model, and I've been currently working on the dashboard of that. I haven't done much to it lately. I am slowly, and I mean very slowly but surely, working on getting it put back together. So the dashboard's down here behind me in the basement. I got to flip it over, start putting the wiring harness in on that. So got to put some new fuses in the box. Then I'll flip it over and try installing it and see what I can put together on that. I got my wiring diagrams. I got the service manual from 1971. So we'll see what I can do about that, and hopefully I don't screw things up. My biggest worry is when I put the bulkhead connector through the firewall, I got to make sure that the harnesses that go into the engine compartment, there are 2 of them. The third one's already the wiper motor, but I got to make sure those matched up before I snap that bad boy in place, and I know where I'm at to match the colored wires up. So that's next on the agenda for that. Now, as much as I would like to attend a lot of these events, that I announce at the end of the podcast, I really can't go to that many of them because my wife, Angie, doesn't drive, so I have to be available to take her to work or pick her up. But I wish I can go to all these events. I would love to go to Moparty. I did make it to Mopar Nationals this year on Friday for a while, but then I had to leave about 2 o'clock to go pick her back up at work in Worcester. But I handed out a bunch of business cards that day. It went very good and met some great people. With that going on and the holidays get-togethers we had took a lot of time, but it is good to be back. Thank you so much for that. So I'd give you a little rundown on that. Now, when I started the WaltPar Podcast, and to keep with my motto, uniting all generations and types of Mopar fans, lovers, and enthusiasts everywhere, I not only wanted to talk about great Mopars in the past and in the current and the people involved, I initially wanted to keep you updated on the latest news with the product changes and what's going on at Stellantis. But a while back, a couple months ago, while I was doing the latest preparation for the news, that one night, I spent 3 hours typing and proofreading the headlines I had so far. And of all those stories I did getting the 3 hours together, it only involved one story on the Chrysler brand, 3 on Dodge, 4 on Jeep, 4 on Ram. Yeah, 3 on Dodge, 4 on Jeep, 4 on Ram, 7 recall reports, and a whopping 25 on Stellantis corporate. And with the news from Stellantis came staff changes again, strike threats, layoffs, stock price declines, and dismal sales figures. After that, I decided that's it. I'm done. No more. So this will be no more news headlines on the podcast. What it did was, when I did my last one, the first whole 20 minutes was nothing but news headlines. That takes valuable time away from you, which is more important than it does take away from me. And we want to make sure we can keep this concise so you're more interested in listening. Besides that, you can find all these articles online. I'm still going to continue to put them on my social media so you can follow along with what's going on with Stellantis. I go through 6 sources to pull stories, and whenever they have anything come up, I do post it for the most part. There's a couple I haven't, but for the most part I do, and that way you can read up with what you want, and then if you don't, that's fine too. But as far as the podcast is concerned, I am done putting them on the podcast, the news headlines, and then, but like I said, they'll be on the links on most of my social media accounts so you can stay caught up. Now, yes, I will continue to have some commentary from time to time. Let's go through one like right now, the early retirement of former Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares. Remember, this is all my opinion. No facts, just opinion. But you know, after he retired, I would venture to say there was not one tear shed when he made the announcement. Now, I know I didn't. Now, I don't mean Mr. Tavares any harm or future misfortune, but I am glad he's no longer at Stellantis, and it sounds like also the U.S. auto unions, the staff at Auburn Hills, the Italian government, the dealerships, the Stellantis board of directors, and the retail customers were thrilled of his retiring. Now, do a lot of you remember the huge amount of money Mr. Tavares made in 2023? It got a lot of people mad, got a lot of people irritated and wondering, what did he really do to earn that money? Well, the board of directors at Stellantis gave Mr. Tavares certain sales and profit goals to meet that year, and he met those goals, and therefore he got a bonus for doing it. Now, it made me wonder, after thinking of that, it just made me wonder, with the reassigning of engineers to countries with cheaper labor, the layoffs of a ton of Stellantis employees, and the price hikes of the vehicles, and a bunch of other things, it makes me wonder, did Mr. Tavares do all of that so he can get his bonus again for another year? I really don't know, but it's just a thought. Now, things have started to look up since he retired. Jeep CEO Antonio Filosa has started lowering retail prices on certain Jeep models. The Charger 6-pack models will be debuting sooner than expected. And also, Tim Kuniskis is back as Ram CEO. But please remember, amidst all this good news that we've been hearing lately and trying to get things back in track for Stellantis, a new CEO has not been hired yet. So we'll see what that future holds when the time comes to hire the new CEO, and we'll find out who that is. Now, I would like to wish a happy 100th birthday to Automotive News. Congratulations to Executive Editor Jamie Butters and the great crew who works for him in continuing to put out great articles that keep us up in the auto industry. Now, Automotive News has 2 podcasts as well. The first one is Daily Drive. It's a daily podcast that keeps you up to date on the latest news. And the second is called Shift, which specializes in mobility. Now, I'm still going through last year's events to find out which ones will be around in 2025, as far as the all Mopar shows, swap meets, and the like. But I want to keep this episode 15 of the WaltPar Podcast brief. Like I said, it is the holidays. I want to get you in and get you out. So this time around, I'm just going to announce what events I have that will be coming in January and February. Those months will be coming sooner than we think. I mean, after all, didn't it feel like yesterday we were in the holiday season of 2023? And here we are about ready to ring in 2025. But before I go to the event calendar, I found a flyer that announced that the 2025 Midwest Mopars in the Park will be returning to its older location, which is the Dakota County Fairgrounds in Farmington, Minnesota. So I called Wade Gerard of MiddleTwin.com, who I interviewed on episode 11 of the WaltPar Podcast, and asked him what was going on, why the change. And he said that in the past, this was a great place to have the car show, but the problem was you had to drive on dirt roads to get there. Well, those roads have now been paved, and since that has happened, they are returning to the Dakota County Fairgrounds in Farmington, Missouri. So mark your calendars for May 30th through June 1st. That's when this year's Midwest Mopars in the Park will be held. Now, there's a couple other changes, too. I'm just going to go through before we hit the January and February calendar. There's another location change. This one concerns the New Orleans Mopar Show, which this year will be held on March 28th and 29th. Now, I'm not exactly sure where the location is, so you'll have to go to bigeasymopar.org for contact information. But they are changing the location of their New Orleans Mopar Show. And there's also been 2 events where they have changed their dates from last year. The first up is the Southern Plains Mopar Fest in Bristow, Oklahoma. It has moved its show date from May to October 3rd and 4th of 2025. So remember that. And another date change, and this one's coming up soon in the state of Florida. What used to be held in May will now be held February 28th through March 1st. It's the 38th annual Sunshine State Mopar Car Show and Swap Meet held at the Florida Horse Park in Ocala, Florida. The host for this is the Florida Mopar Association, floridamoparsociation.com for more information. In the great state of Illinois, the Chicagoland Mopar Connection Swap Meet 2025 will be held at Bettenhausen Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, but not in Tinley Park. It will be at their Lockport, Illinois location this year. It will go from 8 until 1 p.m. on February 9th. Chicagoland Mopar Connection is your host. Contact Steve Burtock for more information at 331-645-7500, or you can email Steve at hockey4sb@gmail.com, or you can contact Ron Jones. That's SP as in Paul, RB as in boy, RD as in Don, RON as in Nancy. That's SPRBRDRON@yahoo.com, or you can contact Ron by phone 630-546-3855, or you can go to chicagolandmopar.com for more information. In the great state of Indiana, February 28th through March 1st, it's the 30th annual Chrysler Performance Trade Show and Parts Swap Meet, or what people like to call is the Indy Cylinder Head Show. This will be held in the same 2 pavilions as last year, the Blue Ribbon Pavilion and the Ball State University Champions Pavilion at the Indiana State Fairgrounds in Indianapolis, Indiana. Both days the show will go on from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Admission is $15 each day, or $20 if you get tickets for both days at one sitting, and $10 per vehicle for a parking fee. You can go to indianastatefair.com/events for more information. The first one of the year that I have so far is in Michigan, the February 2nd, the Walter P. Chrysler Club Great Lakes Region Swap Meet, hosted by Roseville Moparts. It will go on from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. at Macomb Community College in Warren, Michigan. You can go to the Roseville Moparts Facebook page for more information. I recently called Roseville Moparts and talked to John. He was a great person. And he told me, because there was thing I saw about it, I questioned about it. This show will go on this year, 2025. Mancini Racing's always putting all great ads that he'll be there, that they'll be there for it. But this event will be here in 2025. it will temporarily not be held in 2026 due to the facility where they have it is having a new floor installed. But it will be back in 2027. So 2025 it will be here. Next year, or in 2026 it will not, but it will be back in 2027. In the great state of Ohio, February 22nd, 2025, the Winter Classic Mopar Swap Meet and Cruise-In at the Ohio Expo Center at the Ohio State Fairgrounds from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. Admission is $10. That's in Columbus, Ohio. JeffJohnsonMotorsports.com for more information. Now, in Victoria, Australia on February 2nd, because remember, it's let me see, February, that would be summertime in Australia. It's the Show and Shine 2025. It will be held on February 2nd. Now, I'm unsure of the location because there's a flyer that's out, but I just could not read it properly. I know nothing about Australia, but they are having it. It goes from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m., $10 vehicle entry fee. The hosting club is the Charger Club of Victoria, Australia. Go to their Facebook page or go to chargerclub.org.au. And I'll have a more comprehensive list next time I put the podcast on. And like I said, I'm still working on trying to get a hold of people. I will definitely start getting a hold of them after the first of the year. Now, if you have an all-Mopar event, be it a show, swap meet, etc., please let me know. You can email me your flyer at WaltParPodcast@AOL or message me on my social media with a direct message. Search WaltPar Podcast. And please, as always, prior to going to any event you want to go to, please make sure you contact the event people to make sure the show is still going to go on. Now, coming up in 2025, I do have interviews lined up with Robert S. Miller of MoparInsiders.com. And I also have one with Jimmy Day with Holly Mo Party. We'll go through sort of what the ups and downs happened last year, how they are getting taken care of this year. And if you read the article in Mopar Collector's Guide, it's off and running, and things will definitely go a lot smoother this year. We will talk to Jimmy Day about that. Now, I'm hoping I will be able to have interviews with Robert from the Dodge Pod Podcast. We'll talk about trucks. And the heads of the Dodge Brothers Club and the National DeSoto Club, as they will both be having their national conventions in Ohio this year. They're both in the month of June. The Dodge Brothers Club will be in Berlin, Ohio. That's the heart of Amish country in Ohio, in Holmes County. And the National DeSoto Club will be having theirs in Akron, Ohio. But there's no exact locations where, but they will be held in those cities, and both of them are not far from where I live. So I'm hoping to attend their shows and interview some people, and I got to work on my video skills so I could show you these vehicles. Now, the Dodge Brothers Club is a club that concentrates on the 1914 through 1938 Dodges, which were mainly owned and started by the Dodge brothers before they went to Chrysler. And, of course, the National Convention for DeSotos, they've been out for a long time. Their last year was 1961. But they are coming to Ohio, both of them. I'm hoping to look forward to talk to them, and hopefully we'll get some history, find out about their cars and everything else, how many people are joining, and let's hope that their clubs are going strong. Well, thank you so much. I told you this was short, and I promised you it was, and it is. So thank you so much for joining me this time on the WaltPar Podcast. Please tell your fellow Mopar fans, lovers, and enthusiasts about the WaltPar Podcast. You know I would appreciate it very much. And please, if you can, please subscribe wherever you listen and give me a top rating if you like what you hear. Any questions or comments, concerns, or suggestions, by all means, email me at waltparpodcast@AOL.com. You can snail mail me as well at P.O. Box 455, Apple Creek. That's 2 words, Apple Creek, Ohio, 44606. Now, before I go, please, whenever you go to a car show or cruise in this coming year, find a Mopar that is totally different than yours and say hello to them. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you join me here next time for the WaltPar Podcast. And as Mike Bonadonna, the president of the Citrus County Mopar Club in Inverness, Florida, says in their newsletter, keep those highways beautiful. Drive your Mopars. Uniting all generations and types of Mopar fans, lovers, and enthusiasts everywhere, from Walter P. Chrysler to today's Mopar and beyond. This has been the WaltPar Podcast. Take care, everyone. The WaltPar Podcast is a production of Auto Catawba, LLC.